Hey folks, this episode of the podcast was recorded at the studio at Sunbeams, part of the Annie Mawson's Sunbeams Music Trust. For more information on their work with special needs adults and children, go to sunbeamsmusic.org. Hello and welcome to Behind the Noise with me, your host, Marc Farquhar. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those who are returning, thank you for coming back. Yep, after a hiatus, we have returned. We are fully back in business, and I can't wait for you to hear this episode and the episodes that we have coming down the line. And today's guest is the absolute perfect way for us to return. A formidable gentleman by the name of Mr. Will Morgan. He owns and runs the OFS, the Old Fire Station in Carlisle, which is now a thriving, regularly selling out venue in the heart of Cumbria. The story of how he's ended up running and owning this place is quite astonishing. I think you'll all agree when you hear. Such a great guy to talk to, so many great stories, such a unique approach to business and life. I really enjoyed this conversation. I was so excited to come back, and this one did not disappoint. So without further ado, please check out my conversation with the awesome Mr. Will Morgan. Okay, we can go. Yeah. Will, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
How are you?
Fabulous.
Good. So the thing I got asked the most when I said you were coming on is, what's it like running a music venue in 2023?
Well, it's very challenging. It's very rewarding. It's exciting. It's every emotion wrapped up in a sort of a 6-7 hour period when you're open with an event. I would say at the minute, now we're through COVID, hopefully, and that's very much in the rearview mirror. All of the rescheduled gigs and things like that have happened and gone. So we're back to be able to book everybody because everyone had to honour commitments from a previous year. So everyone's back on tour, and it's super busy. So we're now up to about 20 events a month that we're putting on.
Wow.
At the venue. I could put on hundreds a month if there was enough days in a month, because there's just so many people on tour. Many people are touring, and people are touring internationally now where they never could. So we get approached by a lot of American and Canadian bands and Australian bands and things like that. So we have to be super, super selective because we pretty much max out about 20 a month. So we have to be really, really selective on who we're booking. So I would say that I say no to like 90% of what we get offered now. And I'm just trying to be really, really selective on who we're booking and putting on.
Must be exhausting.
Yeah,
it sounds exhausting.
You put a lot of hours in.
Yeah. I
always thought in my previous life I worked hard. I would often, woe is me that I worked really hard. I wish I knew
what was coming,
how hard this was, because it was a walk in the park, really. So I would say a lot of weeks when we have a lot of gigs on, I'll average about 100-hour week.
Jesus Christ.
Because you're working through the day.
Yeah, you don't just show up at like 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I wish I could. I think people think I just turn up and swan about.
Yeah.
If only. So you're in first thing in the morning, you're dealing with agents and promoters, you're booking people, you're deciding if you want to do it, you're trying to sort all of those deals out and the mechanics of all of that. You're dealing with all the social media and promoting the events. You're dealing with just everything, running the business, the staffing. Obviously, we have a big, successful bar at the venue, so you're trying to focus on things like drink trends and what to buy, and you're dealing with everything. And then you've got to get the venue open, you're sound checking, you're dealing with everything, getting green rooms ready for people's riders, because that varies obviously on every single event. So you're getting all of that ready, and then so you've done a day's work before you open the door to let people in, and then you're dealing with that and hosting it and managing it and dealing with all of that and sorting it out through the evening, and then getting the place turned around and ready to go again the next day.
Because the other question I got asked by a few people was, do you at every single event that's there?
We've been open for almost 2 years, and there's only been one event I've not been at.
That sounds crazy. Have a night off, man.
Yeah, do you know, the thing is, because we've booked so many great bands now and acts, because we do a lot of comedy with great comedians and a lot of these amazing bands, I get so excited about it that you think, all right, well, on Wednesday, so-and-so's coming, I'm going to get to meet them. And there's so many people that were heroes to me when I was younger growing up. and you had posters of some of these bands on your bedroom wall as a kid, and now I'm going to get to meet them, and that blows my mind. I find that it blows my mind every time. That I find it amazing, because then I'll be sitting in the green room having a drink with some of these bands, and I'll say to them, "I bought your single from Woolworths, back in the day." And then I'm sitting having a drink with them and a chat, and it's amazing. So
fair point. Every
time I think I'll take a night off, I think, "Oh, well, no, because they're coming tomorrow, or they're coming, or that comedian, or that band, or this," and I don't ever want to not. And then what would I do? I'd just be at home
wondering,
watching
should
telly.
I be there?
I'd just be at home watching something on telly, and I think, well, I can either do that or I can be in and spend time with people I've admired. So
the answer is yes. You go to pretty much every event.
Bar one, yes, I'm at every single one. Yeah.
That just blows my mind, because I was looking at all the events going. So is it you're not on every single night of the week, though, are you? You're like,
no. So we only open when we have an event on.
So usually probably maybe Wednesday, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. Yeah.
That's a lot of events.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So typically, what time do you get there when an event's on?
Well, so I get the venue. I get to the venue every day at 10 in the morning.
10 in the morning.
To obviously manage it and run it, and then bands normally arrive about 3. So I'll finish So from 10 to 3 is generally me in the office upstairs doing the admin, if you would, and running the business. Bands arrive at 3, and then that's me working with the sound engineer and people to get them ready and prepped and ready for the show. And then there's I think what a lot of people don't realise is the level of physical work that goes into it. So we've got a reasonable amount of staff now, but so for instance, tomorrow we've got an event on for BBC Radio 4.
I saw that, yes.
Yeah. So that's a seated event. So that's theatre-style seating. Mm-hmm. And then the next night we've got another seated event, but it's different. It's more cabaret-style seating. So we've got to then empty the room, change everything. On Friday, we've got Peter Hook from New Order coming, which is a big sold-out event. That's a standing event, so that's all the furniture out. That's crowd barriers in by the stage, radical change. And then on Saturday, we've got the Blue Tones, so that's seated, so that's barriers out, everything out, 220 chairs back in, laid out in a theatre style. So, it's a
lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
So that brings me on to your team. How important? How big is your team, and how important is that to you?
Yeah. Well, in any business, a business is only its people fundamentally. It's not the building or anything. It's the people in it that make it happen. And I'm incredibly fortunate and lucky the people that we find. So we've got about a dozen members of staff, and they're just as passionate and just as excited about what we do. So it's crucial. It's any business. You go into business and you can feel the vibe instantly when you walk in, because you can feel that people care and that they want you to have a good night, and they care and they interact and everything that goes along with that. And you go in places that no one's bothered, and they just want your money. Because you can.
Yeah.
And I think for us, and we get, if you look at all of our customer feedback, we've got near perfect customer feedback on all measurable metrics. And it's all, the feedback is always about the staff. It's always the level of care and how much people are bothered, and it's always that theme running through it, because we train everyone really well and we only employ the people. It's that thing, if someone's got no experience, I'm not bothered, because you can't teach unteachable, so we employ people with the right, people that want to work with people and have a good time and interact and provide that service. The technical side of it you can teach, that isn't a problem. It's
training on the job.
Yeah. But I said you can't teach the unteachables, so, and it makes a huge difference. It wasn't for them. Well, any business you couldn't do it.
So if you say couldn't go to an event for something happened, you're confident that your team could just take over?
Yeah. So my wife runs a business with me.
Okay.
As well. So my wife owns a graphic design business. So she runs that business in one of our offices at the venue. So she runs that through the day.
Okay.
And then almost, again, not all, but the vast majority of events, when she finishes work as a graphic designer, she'll get changed, come downstairs, and then she'll work in the venue on the night.
Well, I was thinking, when you go to every gig, I was like, what does his wife think? He's out every night. She's there as well.
She's there as well. So you do have to have a good relationship, because you're together almost 24 hours a day. So if there's
That's a strong relationship.
If there's any issues there, you'll find out. So yeah, so that helps, because if there's anything where if I had to nip out for a bit, or you couldn't be there, then she's there to do that as well. But yeah, if something happened and we weren't going to be there, the team are experienced enough that they could manage that. Yeah.
Cool. How long have you had it for as the OFS? Or were you the first person who has had it as the OFS?
No, so the history on the place was so it's OFS because it's the old fire station.
Yeah.
As a customer said to me the other night. Now, granted, they were drunk, but they said to me the other night, "Can I ask you what this building was before it was the old fire station?"
I knew that was coming. Why do you call it the old fire station?
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah, they said, what was this place before the old fire station? And I said to them, well, before it was the old fire station, it was the fire station.
We've just added the old.
And I swear to God, it blew her mind, because she went, "Fucking hell," she said, "right." She said, "That's a coincidence." I said, "I don't think you understand what coincidence means." I said,
we've called it the old fire station because it used to be a old fire station.
Yeah,
wow.
So that blew her mind. I get asked that question a weird amount of times.
More than you should.
Yeah, there won't be a week where somebody doesn't ask me that.
But they're always drunk.
They're always drunk, but
Yeah.
they're amazed. So so it was the fire station in Carlisle. It opened in 1940, so it opened early part of the Second World War, and it was the fire station until about 15 years ago, and then the fire brigade moved out to a new purpose-built place. It sat empty for quite a long time. The city council at the time then had a real foresight to bring an art centre venue to the city, so they repurposed it, which was great, and converted it. And then they ran it for a reasonable amount of years. I think about 5 years they ran it as a venue. And then all venues closed in COVID when the pandemic happened. So it sat empty for 18 months. So it was mothballed. And then the council wanted it to reopen, but they didn't want to run it anymore.
Right.
I think they had the foresight to realise that if it was taken over and ran privately, it would bring more to the city, and it would someone with different level of business acumen could run that differently and do that. So they put it out on a European tender to apply, because the person they wanted to take it on. So the deal was it had to be a venue if you took the business, and they wanted somebody that had the absolute best interests of the city and the county at heart, and. So we went through about a 4-month process.
Like a vetting process almost.
Yeah, where it was, business plans, and then that was weeded through, and then presentations, and. I can't even begin to tell you how complicated that was. Arduous doesn't come close, really. So there was a lot of people applied for it, and I didn't think I would get it because I'd never worked in...
I was going to say, what experience have you had running a venue before?
Well, none. None.
Wow.
So, and I just thought...
Your business plan must have been fantastic.
Wow. It was one of those moments. There was a front page headline on the local newspaper, the News and Star, and it said... It was quite a good headline. It said, it's SOS... for the OFS.
Okay.
Was the headline.
Like it, yeah.
Because it looked like it was never going to reopen. So there was interviews with local bands and all sorts of people saying what a travesty it would be if it never opened, and councillor then put a message out saying that they did want it to open, but they didn't want to do it, so people had to apply. And I said then you had to go through this European tender. And when I was in a newsagents and I seen it, and it was just one of those light bulb moments. I seen it, and I went home and I said to my wife, right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this.
And she said, yeah, that sounds like a brilliant plan. We're in the middle of a pandemic where everywhere's closed, but you want to buy and take over a live entertainment venue. That's not happening. So then secretly... You did it anyway.
I applied. When she kept going, what are you doing on the computer? Nothing. Just looking at porn. That was like...
Something believable.
And then went through, this insane process. And then at every stage I thought, well, they'll probably just say no, but I thought it was quite an interesting process.
Right.
And then we got through about 5 or 6 steps, and then they rang.
You
and
had to
said,
tell her.
we got to the point with the rang me, and they said it's between you and one other person, and I thought,
Shit.
and I thought, oh, this it might happen. This
I better tell her.
I'd better tell her. Yeah, and then we went and did this presentation to the city council, so to all the councillors and everyone on that committee, and we went through it. And I think that the big thing for us was that we live in Carlisle. We absolutely have the best interest the city at. So everything we wanted to do was to bring big city acts and everything. We really wanted to bring things and be unlimited. I think so many times in Carlisle people think, well, that's not for Carlisle because it's just a small city, and that isn't for us. And I think in my previous life, travelling everywhere and working nationally and sometimes internationally, you think these things will work in Carlisle. So I think we just had a bigger, wider vision and scope on what we wanted to do.
Did you look at what else was going on in Carlisle?
Well, to be fair, there isn't. I mean, there isn't a lot.
No.
Yeah.
There was kind of like, there's the Sand Centre, which is like way up there, or you've got like smaller venues, like much smaller venues. There's nothing. There's not much in between, is there?
No, because you've got the Sand Centre, all 5 stations after the Sand Centre is the biggest capacity venue in the city.
It's a Brickyard.
And then after us, you've got the Brickyard.
I love the Brickyard. Brickyard's a great venue.
Yeah, great venue, and I think they do something very different from us. So they put a lot of bands on that we probably wouldn't. So they do a lot of harder and heavier metal and bands and things that we wouldn't do. So that's great. So that because that really services a level of the community that
gives the area more variety as well.
Yeah, because if it wasn't for them, there'd be a lot of bands that couldn't get gigs in the city. So I think it's crucial that they're there doing what they do.
Yeah, well, when I was in my band, that was our home venue. So
yeah. So there's very little crossover between us. So it's great because we complement. A lot of bands that wouldn't want to play there play with us, and vice versa. So that works really well. And then you've got the people that play at the Sands just because of the sheer size of it. But I think so we're a 420 capacity venue.
That's a good size. That's a good size.
Yeah, it's big enough that we can afford to bring in a lot of famous bands and do that, and it's small enough though that customers get a real intimate experience because you're not watching it. It's that thing when you pay a lot of money to, you'll pay £100 to see a famous band, and you watch a lot of it on a digital screen because they're so far away, and you think it's largely pointless.
Yeah, it's just people say, "I was there."
Yeah. Whereas with us, you're there, and
you don't need a screen.
No, because you're just there in the room.
Yeah.
And I always encourage bands at the end to come into the bar and have a
Well, that's
drink.
that balance of getting the biggest acts you can in the smallest venue you can, because that's what people want to.
Yeah.
People want to see. Oh yeah, like I get what you're saying about paying hundreds of pounds to see the big bands in like a stadium. But if you could get someone, maybe not that level, but on the way up, or someone established, older, in a smaller venue, then that's what people want to see.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
So how important has social media been since you started, in your opinion?
For us, if it wasn't, and primarily for Facebook, which is the medium most of our customer base, the demographic of our customers are mainly Facebook users.
Okay.
Yes, if it wasn't for Facebook, I don't think we could function.
What is your demographic?
So our demographic is, 80% of our audience, so we have, because of the ticket provider we use, we get really, really good stats on our customer base.
That's what you need, isn't it?
So 80% of our customers are between 40 and 60. It's very, very, very 50-50 male-female. 68% from Carlisle, and the rest are predominantly West Cumbria, Southwest Scotland, and then bits and pieces from...
That's very useful data, because then you can tailor your content to what you already know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can boost it even, can't you?
Yeah. So Facebook's crucial for us to be able to get that message out. Because gone are the days really putting posters up and...
I was going to say, do you any flyering or any around the town? Or
Yeah, you do a bit, but the trouble is, of course, with the death of city centres, you've got so many less people coming in.
Less footfall.
In Carlisle, all the big department stores are closed.
Yeah.
Every day a shop's closing, so the town is a lot quieter. So you're putting posters up, but who's seeing them really? So
yeah.
So social media is absolutely crucial. I mean, what we find is for the bigger, more famous bands, we'll put a post out on a Monday saying, so and so's coming. Tickets go live this Friday at 10, and it gives people a few days to be able to talk to friends and gather numbers.
Yeah.
And then I would say a lot of the time for the really famous bands, they'll go live on that Friday at 10 o'clock, the tickets, and in the main, by 10 past 10, it's sold out.
So a lot of your events are sold out.
Yeah, so January and February, everything was sold out. I think bar one event in March, it was sold out, and April's about the same.
So is that the point where you turn to your wife and go, I told you?
See?
Have you ever reflected back on all that then?
On doing it?
On the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, when you... I mean, I wouldn't have changed anything.
No. It's probably better that you didn't think you were going to get it when you were going through it.
Yeah.
Because you probably would have put yourself under more pressure if you thought you were going to get it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember when we were in the Civic Centre and there was about... I mean, it felt like there was about 100 councillors and everyone. It was a comedy-long boardroom. It was like something of a cartoon, or those films where
pass the salt.
Yeah,
it was slide it down the table.
It was one of those. So we did a presentation, and at the end of it, one of the councillors said, "Have you ever worked in hospitality?" I said, "No, no." "Have you ever run a venue?" "No." "Booked bands?" "No." "Owned a bar?" "No." "Right, well, you sound perfect." Well, let me tell you.
So what do you think it was that got you the gig then?
I think I think it was just the strength of the plan that we're putting in, because it was totally accurate. I've spent my life before this running businesses and writing budgets and business plans just endlessly, and fixing businesses and repairing them is primarily what I did. So I think a lot of people had put business plans in for that place that were crazy, that were unachievable.
Yeah.
It's going to make millions, and it's going to this and just unachievable, pie in the sky sort of things.
You were realistic.
Yes, ours was accurate. So
Yeah.
it was, well, this is what happened over the next 5 years, and everything we wanted to bring. It was that vision of saying we're going to bring this and we're going to bring this and make it happen. And we have, to be fair, we've delivered on everything that we said we'd bring. A lot of people took a lot of convincing. So things like, I remember I had loads of conversations with Live Nation, who were one of the biggest promoters in the country.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we were talking to them about bringing the comedy store that they do around the world, about bringing that to Carlisle, and they said it'll never work, because they said we have to do it like 6 times a year to make it work in a city, and it'll just not work in Carlisle. The demographics not right. And I'd send them all sorts of ideas and concepts and and promises. So they ended up putting it on, and we did one, sold out. We did another one, it sold out.
Wow.
And we've now contracted them for the next 5 years.
Comedy store.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah. So they're contracted into us for the next 5 years,
Awesome.
which is great. And then things like a bongos bingo style night.
I saw that. So what is that?
Have you never been to one?
No. Have you heard of that, Tech?
Sorry, I just muted my mic. Yeah, I know what that is. It's just like it's like bingo, but it's just like mixed with a nightclub.
Okay.
So it's bringing bingo to the new generation, really.
Mm.
So you have a round of bingo, and then you have a dance and have a party.
People play bingo for about 10 minutes.
Right. I've heard of it. I
and
just
then
wasn't
forget,
quite
and
sure.
then just get drunk and dance on tables. So basically, anyone that wants me to describe it, it's organised. It's like a maelstrom of organised chaos.
Sounds amazing.
So it's all long benches. So there's DJs and dancers and presenters. They play bingo. Every couple of numbers triggers a relevant song. So a big anthem will come on.
Right.
And then everyone's on benches dancing. So there's hundreds and hundreds of people. Primarily, it's like 99% female.
Okay.
So they're all dancing on tables. Everyone's drunk. You win great prizes. So you can win holidays. You can win a cardboard cutout of Boris Johnson, or a cuddly toy, or a lawnmower. Do you know, just really random things.
Yeah.
And everyone just has a great time. So it's all dancing and just wild. But again, before we brought it to City, you either had to go to Newcastle or Manchester.
Right.
And we brought that. And again, we had them on. We did that every month last year. So they were on every month for the year. Every one sold out, and everyone so far this year sold out.
That's cool. So are you constantly on the lookout for things that you could bring here?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So when away in other cities are doing something, or you see other things,
Yeah.
or I'll see something on social media, I'll try to get in touch with those people and make it happen.
That's cool.
But again, it's great for the city, isn't it? Because the that's extra income. You know, in cities like Carlisle, which are struggling, like a lot of smaller places. You know, things like those sort of bongo bingo style nights, right? So we sell out to 250 people because it's all benches and seating. Now, that was 250 people that were going to it, but they were going to Newcastle and Manchester. So that was money leaking out into other cities, whereas they don't need to now. So they come to us, and all that money is getting spent locally. They're going out for dinner in Carlisle before they come, and you know, and spending the money. So it's huge extra amounts of money retained in the city because of the different events that we can do and put on. I mean, we did a big deep dive into last year's figures for the amount of people. So we had 51,000 people come to the venue last year.
That's incredible.
And the amount of events. And we did a big survey on a lot of them about where they'd come from and what they'd spent on things like hotels and dinners before and the like of. And it worked out that last year we generated an incremental 1.3 million in spend in the city over and above what they spent with us.
That's amazing.
You know, for people coming in, because it's hotels and taxis and, and dinners and drinks and
go
other
for
bars.
Foods and drink elsewhere
before
they come to you.
Yeah, and all of that. So as well as what we're generating, the venue's generating, you know, circa 1.3 million in additional spend for the city. So
going back, when did you launch? What was your first gig?
We opened on the 9th of September 21.
Right.
And the first gig was a book launch.
Okay.
50 people came to it. And we were clueless. Clueless. Got through it.
The learning curve is like that.
Yeah. I mean, obscene, really. I mean, we were clueless, really. It was good. And then, I mean, luckily in that first month, there was a lot of rescheduled bands and things from pre-COVID.
So it wasn't like you were short of people looking to play.
Yeah, so the first couple of months were steady. I think the first month in September, you know, we opened on the 9th. I think there was maybe 6 or 7 things in that month.
Yeah.
And you learnt on the job, and after every event, we'd sit down as a team.
With a debrief.
Right, so...
What did you learn from that?
Yeah, right, we're probably going to need 2 bottles of vodka, have we, for next week? Cause, I don't think one was enough tonight. And just everything that
but those are the things you can only learn. You've just got to start, haven't you?
You do. And
you can't improve what you don't start.
Yeah, and you've just got to think, well... Right, well, everything's a learning curve, and do it. And then I do reflect on a lot of those first few months because, you know, look at this week and there's 4 or 5 things in this week, and we'll probably have something like maybe 2 and a bit thousand people come this week to events, and the money that we'll take and what we'll do, and you think, thank God. You know, we opened almost 2 years ago and learnt that through quieter events
to get to where you are now.
Because you take it in your stride now.
Yes.
You know, the people that we were then would have had a heart attack.
So did you take any advice from people when you first started?
None. Well, there was no wrong to really...
True.
You know.
True.
I mean, we got the keys. So we opened on the 9th. We got the keys on the 7th. And it'd been closed for 18 months.
What was it like when you went in then?
Well, there was a bit to do. So, I mean, there was no internet. There was...
Oh, God, yeah.
You know, I mean, there was nothing. So, it was hellish. So, it was...
It's like, where do you start?
Well, you just ran around a lot, really. So, and, I mean, that first for 48 hours getting ready to open was insane, really. I don't really know how we did it when I look back.
It's a bit of a blur.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And then and then each one you think, right, we've learnt this, we'll do that, and then you move on. And I often
look at you now.
Look at us now. I look back a lot now, and we often laugh and look back at those first few months because you just think, man, we were just clueless, really.
Yeah.
But then really.
But what else were you going to be?
Yeah, no, definitely.
No
yeah. But you know, it's fake it till you make it, isn't it?
You've learned fast. You're a fast learner, adaptive.
Yeah. But you've got to. So, I'm super proud of what we've achieved in relatively short space of time. You know, very much put Carlisle now on the music scene map, and the people get in touch with us now, and it's we're in a radically different place, and it's just interesting now when you have a line of sellout gigs. And you're just unfazed, and all you are is looking forward to them.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, you zoom back
probably
a bit.
Of stress and anxiety in the early days.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember our very first sell-out gig. I mean, I barely slept because we were just thinking, well, what's this going to be like? Well, there's 420 people coming in. Well, how's that even going to work? And you're freaking out, thinking, oh my God. And then you get through it and you almost PTSD from it. And now
you just look forward to things.
It's just another.
You just look at the calendar and go,
just another day in the
nice.
office. Yeah.
That's cool. So, your wife being a graphic designer, did she do the logo?
Yeah, so we're really fortunate. So Maxine designed the website. And
I like the logo.
Yeah, so she redesigned all of that. You know, how the social media looks, the website, all our posters, and everything to do with the business she does. So it's super helpful.
There's a lot of old fire stations I noticed when I was doing my research.
Yeah, there is quite a lot.
It's a well beaten track of things. Old fire stations becoming venues for things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just think there's a lot of fire stations where they move to purpose-built places, and you've got these relatively big buildings that look cool and are a bit quirky, and what do you do with them? So there is quite a lot.
It's like all O2 academies used to be cinemas. Like I didn't know that at first. And then we played in one, and I was like, oh yeah, you can see all the aisle lights at the top. They haven't moved them. All the arrows on the floor pointing to where the seats were.
I mean, we get a lot of people. We get a lot of people getting in touch saying, I can't make it to the band at yours, but I'm going to be in Sunderland next weekend, and the band's playing at the old fire station there, so I can just transfer my tickets to that old fire station.
Like it's a chain.
Yeah, I've had that conversation a lot, and I think, well, I get it, because they probably just think, well, that's what it is.
Yeah, true.
So we have that conversation a lot with, but again, there's not a week where I don't have that conversation, so they're all independent businesses, they're not actually the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I get asked, am I sure? A lot of people say that. You sure?
Are you sure about your business?
Fairly sure. So yeah.
You must get some funny emails from people about things, do you? About various things.
Yeah.
Strange offers for events, or
the thing is the people that get in touch, it's always a drama.
Okay.
Because the people that don't get in touch,
everything's fine.
Everything's fine. They understand how to buy tickets online. They know how to deal with that. They get the app where the tickets live. They go on the website, see what times things start, when it ends, and it's golden, isn't it? And they turn up, and that's 99% of people. The people that ring you or message, not always, but in the main, it's always a drama. Okay. So I've lost my ticket. How do I get it off? Who did I buy my ticket off? How do I get this? And I understand, but because it's trying to explain to people, because people don't understand the mechanics behind it, do they? Because as a venue, we're hosting that band, but we're generally not selling the tickets for it.
It's all done third party, isn't it?
Yeah. So and for a lot of events, like Peter Hook on Friday, I think there was 6 different ticket companies selling tickets for that.
Oh wow.
But you get that a lot because a promoter will put an event on and they'll have relationships with numerous ticket companies, and so we'll have an allocation maybe of 100 tickets for our ticket company, and then it'll be divided between Ticketmaster and C-Ticket and so people ring and say, I lost my phone, I've lost my ticket, who did I buy my ticket off? I have no idea.
Yeah. So what do you do in those situations? How do you?
Well, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Because I don't know. And yeah, so people often get a bit irate with you because they think you're not being helpful. I'm like, well, I generally don't know who on earth. I don't know who was selling the tickets for those things. I don't know. So yeah,
there must have been a lot of things that you've just learned along the way, like teething problems that you didn't foresee and things that you've ironed out. And
yeah. I mean, the biggest thing when we started, of course, because I had such a change of industry, was just the terminology. So every industry has its own abridged terms, don't they?
Yeah.
And everyone takes it for granted. I can remember the first week, and I was getting in touch with promoters that had been recommended and agents, and and I'm ringing trying to book gigs in, and I'm sitting there and they're saying to me, it was things like, and they're saying, right, well, can you just remind me what your cap is? I'm thinking, I haven't got a clue. So I'm trying to Google while I'm talking. So I'm talking really slowly, going, the old cap. Right, yeah, the cap, right. Ooh, is it sunny where you are? While I'm Googling venue cap. I'm like, oh, right. What my capacity is? Yeah, that's right, my cap. Yeah, the cap, right, well, the cap. And then it was avails for availability. And it was just numerous things that you just had to sort of go with it to understand. So
Yeah.
they didn't look because you thought, well, I don't want them to think I'm
I don't know what I'm doing.
green because then they'll shaft me on a deal.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah,
A lot of learning as you go.
yeah, so a lot of really getting your head around terminology and all of that, and then getting your head around what a win-win deal looks like, because
Yeah.
you know,
Where
again,
everybody gets something out of it.
yeah, because at the start, of course, when you're doing it, they'll pitch a deal, and then it you know, and again, when you're new, you think, well, that's what the deal is, so you do it, and then when you get more experience, you realise they're terrible deals, really, and so now, you know, they have to be win-win, because the worst thing is you put an event on that loses money or doesn't make any money, and you think, well, you just don't you don't have that band back, do you? So
Yeah. So that would only happen by not selling enough tickets.
yeah, so there are three deals that venues do. So there's generally only ever 3 deals that you can do as a venue. So you either act as the promoter yourself, so you're the de facto promoter. So a band will say, we charge £10,000, so you're paying them that money, and then all the ticket money's yours. So if you make more, it's all yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bar money as well.
Yeah, so you're the promoter, or you do a hire. So a promoter will be putting a gig on. So again, the promoter will have negotiated a deal with the band. They're going to keep all the ticket money, pay the band out of that, and they keep their margin. So they'll hire the venue. So you send them your rate card for how much it's hire the venue. Or the third option is where you've both got skin in the game. You do a ticket split. So you'll agree a percentage split, which is normally about 75-25 is the general deal. So the band or promoter will get 75%, the venue keeps 25%, and they're probably the most preferred, because everyone's got a vested interest in it. Because sometimes,
so they're going to pull their weight.
Yeah, because sometimes when you act as the promoter and you agree a fee, even though you think the band would want it to be sell-out because they're going to play to a sell-out crowd, they're not that bothered because they're getting the money whatever happens.
Yeah.
So if you only sell half out, they're still getting the money.
True.
And it's you that loses money. So so it works best if you can do a split, because then the band's promoting it and it's on their website, and they're promoting on social as well as you, and it works a lot better that.
Cool. That sounds interesting. So how hard is it to not, obviously I imagine all your costs have gone up, all the cost of living. I think how hard is it to not pass that on to your customers?
So far so hand on heart, we haven't passed on a penny. So we put a lot of the same story we put out 3 times, and it got picked up by the local press last year when everything was skyrocketing and bars were closing, and there was news stories saying a pint lager was going to be £10, and because it was, and all that sort of thing. So we put a post out saying, this is our prices at the bar, and we guarantee, I think we did it in September, and said we guarantee at least until end of the year there'll be no price rises, because I wanted people to have the confidence to buy a ticket, you know, maybe for months in advance, to think, well, I'll buy a ticket for a show in December, but know that if they turned up for that event, they could still afford to have a night out, and they weren't going to turn up and think everything's doubled. So I wanted them to have that level of confidence that they could buy and do that. And then at the end of the year, we did it again for a couple of months, and I put the same post out last month saying that we'd honour it well after Easter and go as long as we could. So we haven't had any price rises for almost a year now.
That's good. So you still obviously making a profit, so you're just happy to not be making as much profit for now, and then hope that it gets better, or?
It's how you run the business, isn't it? So we're not tied, on the bar side, we're not tied to any breweries or anything like that, so we can do different deals with people that are advantageous, so we try to do that to keep costs down. Again, we try to keep ticket prices really, really fair for people. You know, average ticket price is about £17.50, which I think is great for the sort of entertainment that you get. So I think, in relative terms, I think it's a relatively cheap night out still, and you get to come to a great venue where people care and have a great night. Because I think with the cost of living, I think it's actually benefited venues personally, because I think people are a lot more conscious about the spending at the minute. So I think and it's a bit anecdotal, but we are seeing it come through. So I think when everyone is very conscious about the money, people still want to socialise because they have to, frankly, for their own mental well-being, don't they?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But I think instead of people saying, right, we'll go out to different bars and spend money in the town and just have a night out like you used to, and think, well, I might spend 50, 60 pounds just going around bars. I might have a good night, I might not, I don't know.
Yeah.
They know they can come to us because they know they love the band or they love the comedian or whatever the show is, and for a relatively cheap ticket price, they know they can come with some friends, spend that same money, but be near as guaranteed a good night and do it. So I think people are opting for that because
Yeah,
they
like a
think
cheaper alternative to what they would have done before.
yeah. I just think people think, well, I want a night out. We'll spend some money, but if I'm going to spend it, I need as near as damn it guarantee that I'm going to have a good time, opposed to just wandering around in the rain, going from bar to bar.
Because I always imagine like somewhere like a venue, like your heating bills or whatever, you just gone, Jesus Christ, like it has for everybody.
Yeah, well, it's horrendous though, isn't it? So when we opened in September 21, our gas and electric combined was about £900 a month. It's now 5,000.
Jesus Christ.
So
I'd be like, just make sure we'll turn the heating off. There's bodies, just you guys warm each other up. We'll turn the heating off.
right, everyone. Right, I need everyone to do burpees.
Yeah. Here's some coats.
Yes. Yeah, we got a cloakroom. Yeah, we have, and we give you coats and scarves.
I was about to say, 900. Man, that's crazy. What a world.
5,000. I mean, that's
unbelievable.
Well, that's credit to you that you haven't passed that on.
Yeah,
relatively at all to your customers.
But what do you? I mean, it's not the customer. It's hard, isn't it? 'Cause it's not the customer's fault.
No, it's not their fault.
And,
no.
and you want, but I mean, we're all feeling.
But what I mean is,
so-
like, generally everywhere else that is happening, like costs of food items are going up.
Yeah.
Everywhere you can think, everything's going up.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a line, isn't there, between where it becomes counterintuitive to do it. So, if I said, well, I tell you what, so for instance, the bar in our venue, the average price of a pint of lager is £4.50, right?
Which I think still is good.
Yeah, it is. Now, if I said, right, that's £7, I would make a lot more money per drink. But the reality is people would probably buy...
Less people would buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd probably sell half as much. So per unit, you'd say, well, we're making a lot more money per drink, but actually I'm taking a lot less money.
It's the same with tickets prices, I would imagine, then. Same principle.
Yeah. So it's that fine line between saying, well, I would rather keep the prices really fair and people... Because we get so much repeat business. We have so many customers that come to virtually everything all the time.
They just trust you, don't they? So they just come because you're just going to put on quality events.
Yeah, they trust the venue and the team and what we do, and that the prices are always fair and I'd rather that. I'd rather it be busy and full and packed out and people having a great time and spending money. I would rather be making a bit less than I used to per drink, but still be making something that people having a good time,
exactly.
Be busy. Because yes, it's a business, so it has to work financially, but we also do it because we're super passionate about it, and we like doing it. So I want to see it busy and sold out all the time.
It's like our local cinema, the Alhambra. They've just dropped all tickets, £5 for everything.
Yeah, seen that.
Which I think that's kind of what they've had to do. Just people will come in. Obviously, if they've paid not much for the ticket, then we'll hopefully then buy food and drink. So that's their bread and butter, isn't it?
It's challenging. I mean, I was reading that same article about the Alhambra, and I did think there was anything I could do to try to help them actually. But I think the reality is, especially these smaller cinemas, when everyone is now just streaming, because films come at the cinema. It used to be back in the day. It used to be a film was at the cinema, and then it would be.
Oh, it could be 6 months before you could see
6
it
months a
on
year.
VHS.
Yeah, 6 months a year, and then
DVD.
you'd buy the video, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then it'd be another 2 years before it'd be on telly.
Yeah.
And so if you only see it, that was it, or you weren't seeing it. Now, if you've got
within a couple of weeks, once it's
if you've
finished
got
cinema
Disney
nationwide, it's on a streaming service.
there's a lot of things now that get released simultaneously, don't they?
Plus, everyone's setups at home is way better than it used to be as well.
Yeah. So it's really challenging that.
But you can't beat going to the cinema. I do love going to the cinema.
Yeah. But I think there is
the generation that are growing up now, or not, or they're not. It's not part of their growing up.
No, they're not as bothered. But that is an industry which I think is really struggling and suffering because of the level of technology.
Yeah.
I think for venues with music and comedy and things that we can put on, you can't really replicate it. Going and seeing a stand-up gig, you can watch it on telly and it's fine, but being in a room with hundreds of people, you can't replicate it. watching a band live. When we opened that venue after COVID, I would say for the first couple of months, right, at the end of a gig, it was really interesting because people had been so isolated, hadn't they, for almost 2 years. People would come out, and it was mainly men actually, would come out from the main room into the bar at the end of a gig, and they'd be crying.
Wow.
Like genuinely. I remember the first time it happened, I thought, oh, Christ.
What's happened? What's happened?
What have we forgot to do? Oh, God.
We've run out of beer.
We've only started, and we're going to have to close. It's gone horribly wrong. And people would come, the amount of fellas that would come and give me a hug and say, like, thank you so much for sending this place to open it, because, like fellas were saying, you don't know how much this means to me.
Yeah.
You know, like to be able to see live music and a band like you know, and people are saying, people would generally, like, it happened hundreds of times that people said to me, they said, I didn't realise how much being around other people and having a collective experience.
You kind of took it for granted, didn't
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. They said, I just didn't realise how much I'd missed it, and like it's blown my mind.
It's a mental health thing, isn't it? Because I know a lot of people, things like going out, being able to go to a gig, or just generally being out and about was their saviour. So like lockdown, for people who were sort of on the edge anyway, it just sent them off the cliff, didn't it?
Yeah.
So I can. That's blown my mind, but it makes sense.
Yeah, and it was great, and it meant so much as well, because you just think, right, well, we're making a difference here. People are coming and reintegrating and having these shared experiences, and because it's that thing. If you go and see a really good stand-up comedian, the next day you'll say to somebody, "I seen a comedian last night," and you'll say, "It was hilarious," and they'll go, "What did he say?" And you go, "I can't remember, but it was brilliant." Because it's that thing. It's the same with a band. You'll go, "It was brilliant." What songs? I can't really remember, but it was brilliant. Because what as humans, I think what we remember is the experience and how it made you feel. You don't really remember the nitty gritty of it as such, but you remember the emotions and how it made you feel and everything that went along with that. And I think that's what we need, really. So, and I think it's highlighted that as human beings, we can't just live in our house with no other people.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. So, did you have many COVID restrictions still in place when you started?
Yeah, well, they all were, yeah. Well, in as much as we opened when venues could open.
But did you have to have like reduced capacity for space and all that?
So I think in the couple of months leading up to September, you had to have, it all had to be seated, and it was like, still 2 meters. And
right.
So it wasn't really worth doing it because you couldn't get enough people in. So we opened in September.
So you had like a waiting game until the conditions were right for you to open?
Yeah, so we opened in September when you could just open.
Right.
But that was interesting, that first 6 months, because even on sellout gigs, as the year went on, we got till sort of, November, December, and we had our first tranche of sellout gigs. A lot of times they'd only be half full because people were still so.
And didn't that Omicron variant come out? That was like Christmas time.
So that was a real curveball. So we got to December, and then everyone started
just dropping off.
Fuck it, we're back, and then it was busy. And then Omicron read its head, and no one really knew what that was going to mean.
Yeah.
And then it looked like everything might close because it was
very touch and go for a while.
Luckily, we're in England, because in Scotland it was really very draconian because, they went really harsh on it.
They did, yeah, I remember that.
And we were very fortunate. What was interesting was, of course, everyone that lived over the border in Scotland, in like Annan and Dumfries, just all came down. So we did massive paid Facebook campaigns.
Screw you, pal!
In Lockerbie and Annan and Dumfries, and going, can't go out in Scotland, you can here. So
let's go for a drive.
So we did that. But then so in January 22, it was challenging because Omicron, and
I remember that. Yeah.
And then people are ringing you and saying, I've got tickets for this gig on Saturday, and you'd say, right, and then they'd give you a hard time saying, do you really think you should be opening because of Omicron? You're like, oh, I don't know I don't know. I'm just like, we're allowed to open. Well, would you think you should? Yes.
Until I'm told otherwise.
I'm like,
why would I not?
Well, don't come then. And,
yeah.
Well, can I get my money back? Well, no, because you can come. Well, I don't want to. Well, don't then. It was like,
you must have had a lot of those conversations.
I must have had 1,000. I mean, at one point, I'm just going to record myself and just
automated message.
Yeah. Just me going.
Thank you for ringing the OFS.
Just me going. Well, don't then. With the 3-second pause going.
Press 1 if you don't want to come.
Yes. Well, I don't know. So it was a lot of that. And then COVID became like people's get out of jail card. So I think if somebody thought, I can't be bothered to go, people would ring and say, my wife's got COVID, right? So can we get money back? No. She's got COVID, right? Right. And I'd say to people all the time, I used to say to people all the time, if your wife broke a leg, would you ring me? Well, of course not. Right. If she had a cold, would you ring? No. So why are you ringing me for? Well, she's got COVID. Well, it's just another thing, isn't it?
It's a virus.
It's just one of a billion things that could happen to you.
That's your decision to make.
Yeah. You know, so you got that a lot around the time. But I think people used it for everything. Do you know, didn't they?
There were some good COVID memes going on. I remember the one about someone showed the stick and said, someone had drawn a red line on it and said, when you don't want the in-laws to visit. Yeah. Sorry.
But it was just the world. People thought it was the world's get out. And then the furious come, well, what do you mean? I've got COVID. I'm like, right? Well, I don't like before COVID was a thing, if you got flu, you
wouldn't go.
You just go, oh, it's a shame, I can't go. Like, I don't know.
Like I'm ringing the venue for a refund. That just wasn't a thing, was it?
Well, no, and you're like, well, why is it? But it became this weird cultural thing that people did.
It was like one of the first things in my memory to be kind of passed on to someone else's responsibility. Everyone expected other people to tell you what to do and how to behave. Like the government says this, venues say this.
Well, clearly they were clueless for most of it, weren't they? So
they were.
We've got a chance. It's up to you now.
Well, so was everyone.
Your discretion.
But fair enough. However you deal with it, but we were so used to kind of hearing that. Okay, well, these are the protocols and the laws. Yeah. So I guess I'll just wait for someone to tell me what to do, and then that'll be it.
Yeah, but it was dead interesting because people just, it's like a lot of people lost their own ability to make a rational decision. You're like, well, don't come then. And a lot of people say to me, well, should I? Well, I don't know.
Asking your opinion.
Well, what if I get COVID? Well, you might, Or someone would ring you a couple of days after they've been to a gig and they'd say, I've just tested positive for COVID, right? Well, I maybe got it at yours. Well, you maybe did. Right? Well, what are you going to do about it?
I'd love to know, what does he want you to do? What does he want you to say? What does he want?
Loads of people say, what are you going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? What?
I can't cure you.
Send some anodins round. Like, I don't know what it is you want me to... Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it is you want me to say. I'm like... Well,
it just shows you how, like...
You might have got it Asda. Like, I don't... Like, did you ring Asda?
It just shows, like, nothing like that has ever happened to anybody in recent memory. Nothing since, like, we had the plague or when everything got shut down during the war. There's very few people who remember that. So it's just like there's no frame of reference for this. So
but it's really weird because I think places like venues got a bit of a bad rep because I'd say to a lot of people, like, what supermarket do you shop in? Well, I shop in Asda, right? Well, if you rang Asda and said, I've maybe got COVID at Asda, well, of course not. Well, why are you ringing me for?
And if you did, what would you want them to do about it?
Yeah, you're like, well, why are you ringing me for? Well, I maybe got it at yours. Well, you maybe got it there. Like, people just chose things and thought, well, I'll ring them. Do you know? And it was super weird.
It was such a strange.
And then obviously as that January went on, and then they turned around and said, do you know what, Omicron actually, it's better than the other one. So great.
It's here forever now.
Yeah, and then it would just crack on.
Like recently, we haven't really heard much about it. Then there'll be a wave of it come around again. Like I got it the first time last November. Have you had it? Have you had it?
Oh, I've had it like a million times.
Oh, have you? That's probably line of work.
Yeah.
But I managed to avoid it until November last year. But then it'll go away again. Yeah. Then it'll come around again. And it's just up to you how you handle it.
First time I had it, I was really ill. Second time, I was reasonably ill. I've had it something like 5 or 6 times.
Oh,
and
wow!
Every time I've had it, it's less. Like I've had all the boosters and everything that goes along with that. But every time I've had it, it's less. I think the last time, it was a very mild cold.
How many times have you had it, Tech?
As far as I know, once.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that all seems very much in the rearview mirror now, though, when everyone's just...
It's weird that it's 3 years ago.
I know, when you think back to it, it seems like you've kind of imagined it.
Yeah, because it was such a...
Because it was people talking about bubble. Are they in your bubble? Are they not in your bubble? Are they doing this? Right? You can have 3 people in your garden at this and that. You look back, you go, did I imagine that? Was that bollocks or was that a real thing?
But Steve in the next town, he's on tier 3.
Yeah.
I'm on tier 2. Yeah. So I can do this. And then it's just...
And you could go out, right? I think everyone's exercised all the time because it was like I think everyone thought they had to go out for an hour. For a
Yeah.
walk. And then can you remember when it got to the point where they said, well, you can go out if you can eat, you can have a picnic or something like that if you've got a substantial meal. Remember? And they classified what substantial was.
Oh yes, I remember
like,
this.
And a Scotch egg was classified as substantial.
Yes, I do remember
So people were going out with a Scotch egg in case they got stopped and they're going, I've got a Scotch egg, this is a substantial meal. Like what's that about? I mean,
I've got government legislation that says so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a level of insanity that, I mean, it just seems insane, doesn't it? So, yeah. So, yes, that first 6 months was, dead steady, busy. We're flying, Omicron.
It's maybe good that you were sort of gradually able to come back into it because you were also learning on the job.
Yeah. But and then that kind of killed it a bit, and then really after that it was no one.
No one really.
And then it was away, and then this was absolutely fine, and it's grand.
How was COVID for you personally then? The whole lockdown thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, COVID was the reason I've got the fire station.
I was going to say, what were you doing beforehand?
So before I did this, I was the head of business for Bentley and Ferrari.
Right. Okay.
Before this, and so I had a very different life.
Not here. You weren't here. Around here.
Still lived in Carlisle.
Okay. Right.
But I just did insane commutes and all of that. So yes, I had a very different life. Right?
Okay.
So it was very corporate and ran those businesses, and then over COVID. So I've always worked, all my life, and most of it in quite big jobs where you never get a minute really, and I think for a lot of people, and it was for me in COVID, it was the first time because I worked from home for a couple of months. And if you can remember, I'm sure the government, in a conspiracy theory, made it sunny for 2 months.
Oh, it was the weather just went
because I think
someone turned a switch.
Yeah, they're like, right, everyone's going to have to be home for 2 months. They're going to go nuts if it's not sunny.
Here's some good weather.
We're going to seed all the clouds in Britain and just make it sunny because it was just.
It was.
I spent like 2 months laying in a hammock, really. So for the first time in my life, really, all the pressure went, the stress went. I wasn't commuting. I was at home with my wife. I've got twin boys who were 18 at the time. 18? Yeah, 17, 18 at the time. And so you've suddenly got time to reflect on, on your life and what you're doing. And I was dreading it. And it turned out my wife and I got on better than we did, and the kid, and we all got on great, and it was brilliant. And then when everything started to reopen, and then it was right, you're going to have to start coming back to the office, and the commute start and the pressure started again, because running those kind of businesses, I mean, the level of bubonic pressure was just, when you're up at 6, you're cleaning your teeth with one hand, going through emails on your phone on another, thinking, oh, fuck, this has happened, or there's some drama, and you think, right, my day. It was tough. And then that all kicks back in.
You'd been unplugged from that for
a long
time.
And then that kicks back in, and then I was driving to Newcastle one day with work, and I just thought, I think it was stuck behind a tractor for ages. My phone's going mad and foot ring, and I thought, I just
don't want to do this anymore.
I just don't want to do this anymore. And I've done it all my life, and I just thought, do you know what? I don't want to do this anymore, and I need to do something radically different, and I need to. I need to have my own business, and because I'd spent most of my life running businesses for large PLCs and doing all sorts of things, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't work for other people anymore, and I don't want that level of pressure. I mean, what we do is pressure, but it's a different kind of pressure.
You want to do things on your terms.
Yeah, and I just thought, I just can't do this anymore. So I got home that night and I said, Maxine, I'm not going to do this anymore. And she said, oh, fucking, you've not left, have you? Being super supportive. Well, no, I haven't left, but
I want to.
But I will be. So I said, right, I'm going to find something in Carlisle. I'm going to buy a business in Carlisle and do something exciting and different and just, So I looked at.
What was your first ideas?
There's all sorts of crazy ideas in that, which I won't go into. There's all sorts
Come on.
There's all sorts of. Well, there was different things I looked at that didn't stack up properly or didn't work, or you think actually that isn't me. And there's businesses that probably financially would have been quite sound, but you think, I don't want to do that.
But until you had that light bulb moment, had a music venue been in your thoughts at all?
Well, because as well, I mean, it's not like there's the 10 a penny, are they?
No.
Really. I mean, as a family, we're quite musical, but both my boys are in a band. They now live in Manchester and they go to BIM University.
Of course, yeah.
In Manchester, and they're studying music and songwriting, and they're starting to get some traction with their band. And so that's been their life for years. So we've supported them through that. So, that was always kind of bubbling in the background. And I'd had some experience of being in entertainment on the stage because pre-COVID, I'd started going on the circuit as a stand-up comedian.
Okay, right.
So I'd started doing that, and so I was doing some gigs with that. And there's a bit of you in your head thinks, well, I'm going to be like the next. I'll be selling stadiums in a couple of years, maybe. This is it. And then obviously COVID hit, and then everywhere closed. So that got kiboshed. So there was things that sort of anchored you to, I guess, entertainment and all of that. And then it was just that light bulb moment of just seeing that story in the paper and going, that's it. Because you're suddenly sitting going, do you know what Carlisle needs? It needs this and it needs that. And Christ, we could bring this to the city. And when I was in Newcastle or London, there was that. We could do this and we could do that. And then your mind just goes in 100 miles an hour with ideas, and you think, right, here we go.
So you have got a busy lifestyle, but it's not. It's more. It's on your terms now, and you're in control of it.
Yeah, so I mean, our commute is like 4 or 5 minutes now. Yeah. Where it sometimes spend 4 or 5 hours in a car every day.
Yeah.
And that's shit. Yeah. So the commute's 4 or 5 minutes. I get to spend a lot of time with my wife. It's just a different world now. It's a different. You must
just
life.
Be generally happier as well. Just
yeah. Well,
which you can't put a price on.
No, I've run a lot of business over the years, and it.
Did that used to be fun at one point?
Oh yeah. Well, of course. I mean, with everything, there's always like fun times and good times and that. But there's always a lot of downsides of those things. And I think the worst thing for me is running a business, but running it for board of directors or PLC, and you've got one vision for that business, and you start down that path, and then they'll want something else,
outside influence.
Yeah, and then that forces you, and you having meetings going, this is counterintuitive to success. This isn't how we should be doing this, but you've got to.
You're compromising,
and that would drive me off my nuts.
Yeah,
that would just because you've got this absolute crystal clear. This is we're fixed. So a lot of my speciality came. So I worked in the motor industry from about 19, 20-year-old.
Okay,
and I became someone that fixed businesses. So generally, I would go into businesses that were losing money. So you'd sometimes go into dealerships that were losing maybe £1 million a year, and you'd have 6 months to fix them. So I would go in and fix these businesses. So what would happen is within 6 months, you would have put them back into profit, right? You'd have sorted staffing out. You'd have got rid of a lot of people, got new people in, trained people. Everyone was on board. So within 6 months, everyone's on board with the vision. The business is turned around. Your customer satisfaction is sorted. You're back in profit. And then the board would then normally go, well, that's great. So we now want it to do this. And they would then apply different influences. And you think, what we've done here is fixed it. We need to keep going at this path.
Yeah.
And then that would... and those things always sat really uncomfortably with me. So not having that now and being able to have your own vision.
It's your vision and you can just drive it however you want to do it.
And we're super successful as a venue, and you can drive that and do it, and there's no one saying...
Yeah, maybe we should do this.
I know you're not happy about this, but we need to do this because of this reason, which makes no sense. But, but a lot of times it would be, and it would just be for... internal political reasons or all sorts of things.
People just want to make their mark, don't they? They want,
yeah. Whereas now, we only make a decision if it benefits the business or the city or the team. If you want to do something, the decision's made virtually instantly.
Yeah.
And there's no, I'm not having to do presentations to boards and wait a week to get answers back. And you know, if that makes sense, it makes sense, doesn't it? Do you know?
I bet you thought that when you probably, did you say you had to do a presentation in front of the council?
Mm.
I bet you thought, I thought I'd finished with these.
Yeah.
But that's where your background would have helped you a lot then.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you handled it quite confidently, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, you spend years doing that, so it's fine.
That's cool. But I remember just since you have opened, there has been a bit of a buzz about the place. I always think the OFS sounds like something you'd hear on like a American chat show. Coming up Saturday night, the OFS with me, David Letterman. You know what I mean? Something like that. It's got a cool ring to it. Like you don't need to explain that it's the old fire station. It's just the OFS. It's its own thing. Yeah. Even the logo suggests that. Yeah.
Well, we're trying to call it more that and almost a bit sub-brandy and do that. Yeah.
Have you got any OFS merch?
I get asked all the time. So we had designed a lot of clothing for the team. So the team have a lot of these really cool T-shirts, like really, really cool designs that my wife's designed as a design, and they're really cool. And we get asked of customers all the time to buy them. So there's not a gig where people don't desperately trying to buy them. And part of me thinks we should, but then the other part is I don't want hundreds of people walking around in old fire station clothing and people think that they work there, or or somebody gets arrested and there's a picture of the front page and they're wearing an OFS T-shirt, and you think,
you'd have to separate staff clothing and
you just have a big thing at the top that says this person does not work at.
You just need to, where it says staff, just put
not
above it. But
Absolutely
so you've
not.
Clearly the branding is there. You're onto something. You should probably just make your staff a certain way and make everything else.
No, definitely, yeah. But it's nice that so many people want to be associated with the business and wear the clothing and do it. And you think
that's your wife going, "Yep, told you, yep, that's me."
But it's nice though, isn't it, that people become fans of your business, that want to advertise and promote
the brand.
Yeah, and people want to be associated to go, well, I'm wearing this because I like going there, and that's about their lifestyle. So at that point, you think, well, we've cracked it a bit. I think at that level.
That's cool.
That became a new revenue stream for a lot of venues during COVID, especially the Brickyard, because they weren't having shows on, but they still needed to survive. So they just started making T-shirts and prints and stuff, and just stuff unique to them that supporters could buy.
I remember they always had, whenever I was there, they always had really cool posters.
Yeah.
And I remember like bands would obviously take the poster of your gig, but I also look at others, like someone spent a lot of time doing the artwork and they would really grab your attention. I remember just like looking at all the posters when I was there, just going, wow. So that's...
Yeah, we do that. I mean, in one of the big hallways at the venue, we've posted the entire place with previous posters.
I like that.
And it's cool because everyone stops and reads them. And then in the green room, we've made a cool wall with all the best bands that have played there. And that's interesting. We had a blues band called Lawrence Jones, is the lead singer and guitarist. He just won world's best blues guitarist. Right. This guy.
So he's pretty good.
I've never seen anyone like it. I mean, it was insane to watch, right? And he played about a year ago with us. And his last gig was a few weeks ago. And I'd redone the green room with all these posters, and I'd put him on, and I hadn't mentioned, and he'd gone in. It was really nice because he came running through, and he went, "I'm on the cool wall. I'm on the cool wall. I'm next to Big Country and these people and that. Oh my god, I'm on the cool wall. Oh my god." And I thought, well, how great is that?
Yeah.
That even someone who's famous and doing it, he was chuffed to bits, really.
That's cool.
So it's nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So like you're a brand within yourself. Like the old fire station. People know that it used to be an old fire station, but now it's just that the OFS can become its own entity. Like it doesn't like how Apple used to be Apple computers. Then it just became Apple. Then it just became a picture of an apple. It's just like there's a lot to be said for branding, and like you said, Tech, about selling merchandise and stuff. It all ties into that fact that you've got someone who does that on the inside. Is you never have to outsource.
No.
That's a big advantage.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference. Yeah.
So has she done that all her life then?
Maxine has. Yeah, she used to work years ago. She used to work as a designer at the Cumberland News.
Okay.
So she designed all the various adverts and articles and all of that. And then when we were pregnant with our twins, which was an interesting day when we had that scan.
Twins, yeah.
I can remember being at the hospital and she was laying there and they did the scan, and I said to the midwife, you know, sometimes people show you those like a scan of a child, and you can't really work out.
And you go, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Yes, I do know that.
And I was looking at the screen, and there was just these two. I mean, it was like you'd drawn. You know, it was like these two perfect baby shapes facing each other. And I said to the midwife, I said, "Oh, that's funny." And she went, "What's that?" And I went, "The way it gives like a mirror image." I said, "It's funny that." And she went, "Oh, it's not mirror image." And I said, "Oh, what's it doing that for then?" Well, because it's twins. Oh, fuck, is it? Right. And then I got accused. Maxine's going, "Well, how have you let this happen?" Well, I didn't tick a box.
I want two.
I said tick
two for one.
One, not the multiple first. So when we were pregnant with twins, and you think, well, how are we going to cope with this? Because you get you know. I know some people just have kids and just hope for the best. You know, for us, it was very much right. Well, we're going to have a kid. Financially, can we do it? How are we going to manage it? Blah 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 blah. So you get that geared up, don't you? And then it's going to be two, and then you think, oh, right, we're going to have to start again with the plan here. So it was like, you can't go back to work because anyone that was lined up to help babysitting said, twins, I can't do that anymore. So we thought, well, we'll just set up a design company for Maxine to do, and she can do that from home.
Work it around it, yeah.
And do it, which is why we started it. And then that just grew arms and legs, and it got really, really big. So she does all sorts of work for different museums and big organisations and all sorts of things that she works for and does.
Does she do all your posters as well then for all your gigs?
She does everything to do
That's
with
awesome.
the fire station. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it's quite an advantage.
It is a big advantage. Yeah.
So how many people do you employ?
We've got about a dozen staff now.
Cool. So it's expanding.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's another thing you'll have learned along the way is like the correct staffing levels and.
Yeah, I mean it's handy. Like with a venue, probably the biggest advantage of a venue opposed to somewhere that doesn't sell tickets is that you know exactly how many staff you need in. Mm. So, because you know that sold 200, that's only done 100 on a Tuesday night. That's sold out at 420. So you know you need 8 staff, 2 staff, 3 staff.
Yeah.
So you can plan. So we can plan months in advance because normally we're booking gigs 6 months in advance. So you can book your rotas for all your team months and months in advance because you know exactly how many staff. It's not like a bar where they're thinking, I wonder if a lot of people will come or no people will come because you don't know, do you? So you've got to staff up for the best case scenario, but then nobody might come. For us, it's great because you know exactly how many folk are coming.
Yeah.
And as a business model, it's very sound actually because you can look at your whole year on the events that you've got booked in, and I can pretty much tell you now how much money we'll make each month based on, you know, there's 20 events. This is how many folk are going to come to those, and that'll be an average spend, and that'll be that deal, and that's quite handy because you can forward plan really, really well actually. So
do you think we are pretty much back to normal now? Like COVID is not even an issue anymore, and it has been for a while now.
Yeah, it's very much over the last year. There'd be people coming out, and you would have conversations all the time where somebody would say, "Well, this is my first night out since COVID."
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for choosing to come here for it. And you'd have that conversation a lot. But I can't remember the last time I had one of those conversations with people.
Well, we were talking earlier about bands. Sometimes some bands are just announced tours now that were meant to be happen probably 2020, and they're just like, well, we can't move it to them because. Like as well as moving 2020 into 2021, there's also all the events that were going to happen in 2021 as well. So
Yeah.
And then maybe they thought to wait until there was no restrictions. So 2023 is probably the first year when there's probably so far this year there's been none. Yeah, well, so all of our rescheduled gigs, the last of them happened last year. So everything that's on this year is fresh bookings, new. Yeah.
And doing it, and then I think we've got. So for this year, I think we've got something like. I think I've got 3 available dates left this year that I can book in.
Wow.
And that's it. And then everything's 2024. And 2024 is about half booked.
Wow.
So that's filling up really nicely. So
I'll fill you full of confidence going forward.
Well, it does make a big difference, doesn't it? Because when you start, you think, well, well,
looking at a blank calendar.
yeah, and you know, and it's like that. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And you think, well, will they? Do you know?
Yeah.
And then, and again, you don't realise, and it takes a bit of time to realise what works and what doesn't. And as much as people will travel for some things, there's a lot in Carlisle and Cumbria. There's certain genres of music that always sell out. So things like rock music, 80s rock music.
Yeah, it's nostalgia, isn't it?
I could have an 80s rock band on every night and probably sell the place out.
Yeah.
Right? It always flies. Because personally, that's my favourite music genre. Right?
Want to name some bands who you like?
Well, people like Journey or Bon Jovi, AC/DC, all of that. Yeah, I don't think songs are written like that anymore or performed like that anymore.
No.
Personally, I don't think there's any new bands coming through. You know, you see people in the charts and like, oh, there's no one like that anymore, and I think that's a shame.
It certainly helps if the band is no longer fully functioning.
Yeah,
and a good tribute band is the best they can get.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we get some really good tribute bands that do that sort of music, and we're also very fortunate that we still attract a lot of bands from that era that we can still afford and put on. But that sort of genre always does really, really well, because there are some things that you put on. So what you quickly realise when you start a venue from scratch is never actually listen to what people advise you, in as much as, so when customers say what you should put on here is this, right? You know, we need more of this in the city. So what everyone always said at the start was Carlisle needs more theatre, right? So we booked tons of theatre productions. Nobody came. I mean, like, nobody came, right? Nobody came.
Bombed.
It was a nightmare, right? Or we need more classical music on. So you book classical bands. Nobody came, right? And then the really sad thing is about local bands, because everyone always said, you know, we need a more thriving local band community. So, you know, we should have local band nights. So we'd book things like Battle of the Bands, or, Friday nights where we'd put maybe 4 or 5 local bands on and do that. You ended up having to cancel them because it would sell no tickets.
Yeah.
So what everybody says they want, they don't.
Yeah.
Really, or very few of them actually want to come through on it. What people want, in my experience, is, you know, famous names,
songs that they know.
Yep. So, you know, a really good tribute band will sell out if it's a band that they love and that it's really high quality, or a really famous band. You know, I said, you look at this week, everything's sold. It's all original famous bands, because so many bands from the 80s and early 90s have all reformed.
Yeah, they've all come back. Yeah.
And they're touring again, so that's great, because it gives people that chance to go and see them. You know, we booked people like Flock of Seagulls the other day, which I used to love, and that's almost sold out already. You know, those sort of that level of nostalgia that people can, when I guess when they hark back to when they were maybe, you know, teenagers and being into them. And now, you know, they're a bit older, like
Terrorvision or Reef.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I was talking to Reef's manager the other day, trying to book them.
I love Reef.
Yeah.
So
good. You know, so those sort of bands just do extraordinarily well. You know, so that real, you know, those original bands that are still touring and are great sell out really, really quickly, and all of that. And that's ultimately, I think, what people want. They want to come and have a good time.
Yes.
And listen to songs that they love and they grew up with and they know.
So you've grown to know that'll sell, that won't sell.
Yeah, but again, I think it's probably different pre-COVID, because I think, and I've no real point of reference because I wasn't doing it pre-COVID, but my assumption is, and again, I think post-COVID, because it's also tied into people being financially a bit tighter, I think, again, like we were saying earlier, people are coming to venues because they know they're going to have a good time. And I've talked to a lot of venues, and it's a similar thing throughout the country. People are doing what we're doing because customers aren't prepared to take a risk. You know, I think people are thinking, you know, whereas they'd have thought, I'll go and see that gig for £7-8 and take a punt, and I might like it. You know, that new up-and-coming man, I might like it or I might not, but I'll take a punt. They're not doing it.
They go for something that they know they're going to like.
Yeah, they go, right, well, I know I'm going to love that on Saturday, so I'll do that. I don't know if I'm going to like that, so I won't. Same for comedians.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about comedy as well, how that's going for you.
Yeah, the comedy stuff's going really well. So, again, the big-name comedians sells out instantly. So,
so that's Hal Crittenden, is he?
Yeah, that's doing really well.
Yeah.
You know, Saturday just gone, we had the Comedy Store, so the Comedy Store was up with 4 comedians, and that was sell out, which was great. You know, the other day we announced Ruby Wax because we
Yeah.
managed to get Ruby Wax, which is great. That sold out in 4 minutes when we announced that. Which
Is that a record for you?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the famous comedians. It sells out instantly. The up and coming guys, and I feel really sad for them because the up and coming guys, it just, I have to say no to a lot of it.
Yeah.
Or you do put it on.
Or do you
and
put
it just doesn't
more
do it.
up and coming guys under the main act? Do you do that with comedians?
Virtually all comedy is controlled by 2 or 3 promoters in the country.
Okay.
So there's like Avalon, Live Nation, and then like 1 or 2 other people.
Mm.
So pretty much all of it is controlled by a few people. So a bit like Avalon, produce loads of comedy shows on TV. So they'll try to groom in a good way, their people through stand-up and start to get that notoriety so that they can then put them onto TV programs and do that. Same for Live Nation and people like that. But the up-and-coming guys at the minute, whereas
Must
maybe
be so tough for them.
maybe 3 or 4 years ago it would have worked.
Yeah.
I think people aren't prepared to take the punt.
Yeah, because it used to be like when we in the bands, it's like the main band, the big band will come through and they go, well, we're bringing this band with us, and then you, the local venue, you choose someone who you think will fit with this lineup. But I don't think that happens in that aspect anymore.
No, I mean a lot of promoters ask us to source local bands to support, and we do as much as that as we possibly can because it's one of the routes to try to help local bands and put them on. But I think a lot of local bands think, all right, I've got the support gig for this band, so I think they think, well, then they'll do a great performance and then it's stardom.
Yes.
But what happens, of course, is when they're on stage playing, the band and the manager are in a restaurant in the town.
Not even there. Yeah.
They're not there. And by the time they come back, the band strip the stuff off stage.
Yes.
And then, a lot of times the band will say to me, oh, what did they think? And I don't have the heart. I'll say, oh, they thought you were great.
Yeah.
I did.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. It starts giving people... What it does do, I think, for local bands, it gives them that experience of stage time to create their stagecraft.
Yes.
Because they're playing in front of hundreds and hundreds of people at hours.
On a bigger stage that would normally play on.
Stage that we never normally do, and they start working out the stagecraft and what works and what doesn't. So it does help them. And
even just to watch the bigger bands as well, you learn a lot.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, so what sort of comedy and art, what sort of art stuff do you do?
So what it's called the dormitory. So what used to be the dormitory where all the firemen slept,
right,
is now we've converted it into an art gallery.
I see. Right.
So we don't do a lot, but we do where we can try to put exhibitions on for local artists. So we'll put pop-up exhibitions on over weekends and display their art and do that and try to drum up a lot of people to come and see it and buy their art for them.
So you try to sort of diversify as much as possible.
Yeah, well, I think the more you can attract different people into your venue to see what you're doing. The only trouble with those sort of things is because we're not open through the day, so we're only open when we have an event on. If you put an art exhibition on, you've got to gear up and open for that through the day. And
true,
so it's staffing and everything, and you've got to get ready and open. So and it needs to be reasonably successful, even just to cover costs.
Yeah.
But Carlisle, there is no real art galleries or anything in Carlisle, so people aren't really used to saying, "Oh, well." People aren't used to going and buying art. I don't think, or looking at it and doing it as such in the city, like where they would be in bigger.
Yeah. So how's that gone generally then for you?
Yeah, they're always tough. They're always a challenge. Those.
Okay.
You do them because it adds a slightly different dynamic in that, but in the main, they're always a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is anybody who you have maybe couldn't afford?
Yeah, there's often bands that I'll see and I'll get in touch with agents to book, and then they'll send me the price, and you think, how can they still be charging? How can they still be charging that amount of money?
Yeah.
It's funny. Some bands I'll get approached to put on, and I think, well, I'll never afford it, and they're surprisingly competitive, and you can do it. And then likewise, there are bands I'll approach.
They just have their price, and that's
and it blows my mind. Like the one that was the maddest was Peter Andre.
Right.
So I was talking to an agent and I booked a couple of bands off him, and then I said, send me your list of everyone that you look after. So he sent me a list of about 50 people he looked after, and I was going through them, and I thought, I bet that'd be quite a funny night. I could probably make that work, that do some sort of 90s throwback.
Nostalgia thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I said, I tell you what, I'll put a few people on. And I said, so I'll book them and them and them. He sent me the price and rang him, and I said, I won't tell you how much it was, but I mean, it was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like he'd somehow got the Beatles back together. You know, you're like,
wow.
Well, how's it that, man? I said, it can't be that much. And he said, that's what he gets. Does he?
Like,
does he?
Somebody's paying it.
Yeah. Like, and I said, but does he get that like once a year, or does he get that all the time? Because you could, one person paid you that once. That doesn't mean that's your fee. That means one person once.
You managed to convince one person to pay you that.
Yeah. You're like, that doesn't mean that's your fee. That's just like what you charge.
Yeah.
Like you managed to get one. That doesn't mean that's what your fee is. So so sometimes it blows your mind on some people. But I think in the main, most bands want to be competitive because they want to play.
Yeah.
They want to get out there and play and do what they do. And I think so many of them just went stir crazy over lockdown. They're just desperate to be on tour, aren't they? And be out and perform. And
nostalgia does sell.
Yeah.
Clearly, you've learned that.
Yeah. And I find I find when you're dealing with bands in the main, like 99% of them are fabulous people. Just dead engaging and great, and do it really for the passion and the love and just it's one of the real highlights actually I found, and I made so many friends in the industry, and so because I find musicians and singers just generally nice people. Do you know?
Yeah. Well, we've pretty much come to the end. It's been fascinating talking about what you've been doing. Have you brought a news article to talk about? Anything?
A news article?
Anything in that's been...
There was a news article this morning.
Oh, this morning, right, okay.
Right. And because it's something that absolutely drives me wild, this. Right?
Okay.
I rang Jeremy Vine show on Radio 2 the other day to give them this as a show concept, and I said I'll talk about it on the show because it's dry. They never fucking responded, right?
Oh, dare they?
How do they not know who I am? How dare they? Right? How dare they? So vaping.
Yes.
Right?
I'm not a fan.
It drives me wild. Right?
Yes. Do you allow it in the venue?
No.
No. Okay. Do people try and do it in the venue?
All the time.
Okay.
So you spend half your time going around saying you can't vape. You can't vape in it. But what's really interesting is it's become muscle memory for people. So this is what happens. So I'll say to people, you can't vape. So they'll be vaping. I'll say, you can't vape in here. And they'll say, I'm not. I'll say, well, you're doing it right now. And I swear to God, they look down and they're doing it. And they're like, they're amazed going, I didn't even know I was doing it. Oh my God. And it blows their mind. But like if you had to smoke cigarettes, you've got to physically go outside and get one and light it. And it's a big performance theatre, isn't it, of doing it?
Yeah.
And then you come back in and it's that, vaping, it's never out of people's hands. And it's become this it's like a muscle
part of them, isn't it?
It's an extension of them. And it drives me wild. It drives me wild. You walk through the city centre and it's like being in a Victorian train station. There's just all these
weird smells coming through.
Plumes of, I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Steam. Do you know what it is?
Strawberry steam.
Yes.
Yeah. Just and you're dodging it on your line. What is this? And just kids everywhere vaping all the time. And, it was invented, of course, to stop people smoking, which was admirable. And now it's just...
It's a very grey area because nobody really knows what's in them.
No, but now it's just designed... Because you've got to be 18 to buy one, but it's all like Candy Crush and colours and...
Yeah, but you're getting kids who don't smoke, but they vape. They've never smoked, but they vape.
Yeah, so you've a product that was invented to stop people smoking, and now you've got a product that's been invented, which is basically a gateway product to smoking.
Yes, yeah, really. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Or to get people addicted to nicotine. It blows my mind. It blows my mind, and it does me head in.
So what did you contact? What was your idea? What were you going to tell them?
I don't know. I was just going to rant. I was going to moan about it a lot.
Okay.
I just thought it was a good idea to do a show because, it's all unregulated. There'll be like weird chemicals. Can you imagine the chemicals? It will come from China. And
it's a very grey area.
In it. It'll just be, and you're breathing it in.
At least fags are honest. It can kill you. You'll probably get lung cancer.
The thing with cigarettes is, they're regulated, so they're made to astringent.
Yeah.
So
You know exactly what's in them.
So they're going,
for the most
this
part.
stuff will kill you,
Yeah.
but we are telling you
Yeah.
that's what it'll do, and here you go. This is this death stick thing,
Yeah.
right? But everything
Death
in it,
sticks, I love that.
but
Cancer
everything,
sticks.
but everything's here, right? Vapes, who knows? Just a multitude of chemicals that
Yeah.
gets people addicted to nicotine, and having a venue, it is challenging because the door staff would just go wild all the time. They're just constantly telling people to stop doing it.
Yeah. I was so glad when that smoking ban came in.
Well, this will be. I bet in 5 years there's a vaping ban, and we'll
Could
look
be.
back in 5 years and go, "Oh, remember when everyone vaped?" And then half the population died because of it. It'll be something like
It
that.
was weird because I used to miss when it came in. I used to miss the smell of it in the venue, in the pub. I used to miss that just a general whatever it used to smell of, because now it was just going to smell clean, which I've got used to, which I've kind of got used to now.
This is nice but strange.
But yeah,
And then do you watch old sitcoms like I saw?
yeah.
an
Oh,
old-
the smoking inside.
yeah, yeah, they're in the pub and they're smoking. That's what? Totally forgot that was a thing.
Some board meeting, some guys fagging away, and it's no one's batting an eyeyelid.
It's
It's
interesting because it ages things very identifiably, doesn't it?
2007, July 2007. And
I was trying to remember when
smoking ban
exactly
came
it
in.
was.
Yeah.
I couldn't be bothered to look it up.
when you see people smoking, in an office, because it's very jarring, isn't it? 'Cause you think,
Yeah.
well, what's that? What's interesting, if you go to a country where there's no smoking ban, if you've ever been to one of
Yeah.
late, and you go, I was in a lift recently in a country where there was no smoking ban, and someone started smoking, and I thought, what on earth
But
is
even
that?
before the smoking ban, it's still a very confined space. What if this person isn't a smoker and
No,
you
but
just decided?
and you think,
Couldn't you wait to get to the 8th floor before you had a fag?
what on earth this person think they're doing after smoking? You're like, what's happening here? And then the doors open. We went out, and then there was two big ashtrays either side. Lift and put it
Ashtrays.
out.
There's the sign, the ashtray.
Yeah, and there's two big ashtrays. So lift and put it out, and you think, well, what's happened? It's something weird happened in this lift. Have I gone back in time? Yeah. So vaping, which was because they said in the news this morning, they were going to give on the NHS. They were going to give people a free of charge vaping pack to anybody that smoked to help them quit. So that sent me off. I was incandescent.
Give me my phone.
My wife was getting ready, and I went into the restroom this morning. I'm going, have you seen this? So that set me off for a solid 10 minutes. About that.
Vaping, there we go.
Well, maybe that sets a precedent for vaping to only be given on prescription or something, rather than to be sold in every corner shop.
If it's associated with trying to give up smoking,
14-year-olds.
then it all needs to be sort of linked. You shouldn't just be able to. I don't smoke, but I'm going to buy a vape. That doesn't make sense.
Well, on the same rationale, they should just have shops selling methadone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all the various other, So
There's a big environmental impact of them as well, because they're batteries, stick batteries,
Yeah.
and they just chuck them in the bin and go to landfill and set on fire. So yeah.
Yeah, you can get single use. So one, use it, bin.
Yeah.
Not even refills. Just you use it, it empties. You put it in the bin, which is terrible.
Well, I read an article the other day, and if someone pulls me up on this interview, but it'll be near as damn it correct.
You'll find it.
Right, it'll be near as damn it correct. This right. They start with something like, I think that every month the amount of single-use vapes that got little batteries in that go into landfill was equivalent to 1,000 electric cars. The batteries. Because you can imagine how many single-use vapes there are.
Many.
Too many.
Yeah, I mean, I think many's underplaying it.
Very many.
Too many.
Tons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my slight rant.
Very good.
Do you think there's the kids are vaping instead of smoking? If vapes weren't a thing, would those same amount of kids be smoking cigarettes?
No. But they wouldn't, would they?
I think those people who do vape would, if vaping wasn't a thing, they would be smoking. I think they would.
That's what
I
I
was
think as well.
Before vaping, I was always surprised how many really young people were smoking.
Yeah.
And what other reason is there to smoke other than to fit in with the cool kids and look older? And
But I mean, I personally know a lot of people our age that have never smoked.
I've never smoked.
No, that haven't never smoked, but now vape, and it drives me wild. And I
Doesn't
said to
make
them,
any sense.
Why are you vaping? Oh, I just thought I'd try it. Right, blows my mind.
I have this smell thing. I'm going to try some of that. It's like sweets
Bubble
or
gum.
something. Or yeah.
Yeah, it's murder. Yeah. So that would be my current rant about things. And the only other thing I would say, and this isn't a news article, but this is just the level of for certain bands, the rider that we get asked for.
Oh yes.
Oh, this is an entirely.
We've had some of these before by other people. Yeah, festival organisers and stuff. We've had before. So
I mean, we're quite fortunate that a lot of people are really. It's funny because people either fall into two camps of riders. So it's either I honestly just a beer and if you've got some crisps,
water.
Yeah, that'll be great, right? Or you've got some of the guys who maybe do an acoustic night who are famous. We've had some famous bands in doing acoustic nights, and it's all about the voice, and they just want honey, certain sorts of tea bags, things like that in the green room because it's their instrument.
Yeah,
and then and then there's the bands where you get the list and you think, well, they'll be dead after this. Because some of the bands, I mean, the level of booze you put in the green room, it's next level, right? Now, a lot of times they might not have a gig for a couple of days, so sometimes they'll drink a bit of it and then they just put it in the
they'll take it with them. Yeah.
And they take it with them. And that's fine. It's fine. I've had gigs where I've gone into the green room at the end and everything that you put in has been drank and it's empty.
It's been consumed.
Yeah. And then you do the maths and you go, so there were 7 of them. There was 120 bottles of beer. And then you go, one of them was driving, so there was 6. And you'd calculate and you go, that can't be right because they'd all be dead. And then one's had a bottle of tequila as well. And you're like, how's that happen? So
and they've done a gig.
Yeah, and they've done a gig. And I said bye to them and they seemed like they're all standing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some of that I find. But it blows because some of these guys are the ones, some of them are the bands that have been doing it since the 80s.
Yeah,
and I think, have you been...
They're just built differently.
You're like, so you drink this much every night since 1982? So it blows my mind. I think,
Well, it's like Ozzy Osbourne. He should be dead.
Yeah.
He should have been dead.
But they're older than me. I had a night out. Like, we had a very rare Saturday night the other night where we had nothing on, so we went out.
No way.
On the Sunday, right? No, granted, I drank too much, right? On the Sunday, and I'm not proud of this, but on the Sunday, I woke up at 4:30 in the afternoon, right? And I still felt terrible. And I see a lot of these guys drinking just obscene amounts of booze.
It's just routine, though, isn't it? It's just they do it over and over again.
Well, how'd you do that? It blows my mind.
Maybe they're just pouring it down the sink. Oh, these guys are great. They look after us. Bought us all this beer. We weren't going to drink it. It was just a test.
Just a bit rock and roll.
It's just the modern way. It's the brown M&M's thing all over again.
we get very little really weird requests. I think I won't say who it was, but it was someone who's super famous, right? Famous for a long time, and he played at ours fairly recently. And we always go, like, our green room at the venue is. It's lovely, it's huge, and it's like nice couches, and there's private dressing rooms, and there's showers, and we really go to town on the green room and looking after people. So it was all kitted out, and there's coffee machines in there. There's all sorts. It's great, right? And it was so this chap came through and said to the bar after sound check, and he said, "Have you got any different cups?" And I said, "Right, is there none?" I said, "There's cups in the green room, isn't there?" Yeah, right. And I said, "Well, I will have." I said, "What kind of different cup do you want?" And he said, "I only drink out of a cup that has a diameter of less than 2.4 inches." And I said, "Oh, fuck off." What do you mean? I went, "Are you taking the piss?" "No." I said, "You only drink out of a cup that's 2.4 inches diameter. Why is that?" "Well, I just prefer it." I said, "You should bring your own cup if that's..."
Yeah, you're not bothered about it. Yeah.
Well, and I went, well, I think I've got some different cups. So I brought some...
Hang on, just get me measuring tape as well.
So I brought
No.
like a smorgasbord of cups out, put them on the bar. I swear to God, he took a tape measure out. Went, no, and he went, "That's 2.1. He went, "That one will do." Right. And he took it away, and he was.
Where does something like that come from?
And then some of the other band, then the guitarist came through later to get something, and I went, "Is he taking the piss?" And he went, "Oh, he's not been through about the cup thing, has he?" It's dead embarrassing, that. Well, why is that? And yeah, so you do get the odd really weird thing. Yeah, at the time, it's annoying, but post the event, it's great because you think, Oh, that's a great thing to have happened. Cause
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I can go and tell that story in a podcast one day.
They're always the things that are funny after, aren't they? But
That's brilliant.
At the time,
Yes.
at the time they really do your head in, and then post it, you think, oh, it's quite.
But that's part of like your reputation is how you look after your clients.
Yeah.
So they'll tell other people about, because they all go in similar circles, don't they? So
yeah. Because what I mean, you've played in a band,
Yeah.
right? So what I find is, and again, this doesn't matter. It's irrespective of how famous a band is. They generally, and it blows my mind this, and same for comedians and everything, they'll always say, when we play at venues, we generally treat as an annoyance, right? That, the green room will be. So, for instance, like the other day, we had Roachford on, which was probably one of the best gigs I've ever seen in my life, right? Andy Roachford was, I don't know if you've ever seen them.
No.
Right? Do you know what I mean, though?
No.
Do you not?
No. Do you?
Nope, no idea.
I'll get lost.
Well, he's a lot younger than I am, but
So Roachford's biggest song was Cuddly Toy.
that rings a bell. Yes.
So I think Cuddly Toy, the stat on Cuddly Toy is it's the most played song on radio ever.
Okay.
Right? So massive song that was for Orchard. Like they had a lot of chart success, like really big band. Roachford also plays in Mike and the Mechanics.
Yeah, know that.
Right? So he plays in, he's one of the band in Mike and the Mechanics. Anyway, so Roachford were on, right? Generally one of the best gigs I've ever seen in my life. And I mean, he's been, and it was really interesting because I said to Andy Roachford in the green room, I said, last night when I got home, because I got home really late after a gig, and I said, when I got home last night, put the telly on about 2 a.m, and Top of the Pops 2 was on. And it was like 1987, and he was on. Like what one Andy Roachford were on the night they were playing on Top of the Pops. We were talking about it, and we were just talking about them and playing, and because he's on a massive tour at the minute, like a nationwide tour at Roachford. And I was saying about the place he'd been in the last week, and he was saying, you go to venues. He said you go in green rooms, they're filthy, they've never cleaned them, and no one's bothered, and you try almost like a bit of a nuisance that you're there, and so many bands say that to me all the time, and it blows my mind because I think, and they're always amazed because ours is always immaculate, there's towels ready, everything that's done, because they'll send a rider and add to the letter the rider's right, and they'll always say, "Oh, right, you've actually done."
So they're used to just people not bothering with it.
Yeah, so we have got the ham and cheese and the falafel sandwich and that. And you're like, well, that's what you said. No, I know, but you've actually done it.
So things like that make you stand out.
Yeah, because you do it. But I think, well, why wouldn't venues like not want to do that? Because you think it's symbiotic, of course.
It is.
You want them to come and go, this place is great, and with it treats like royalty.
But hopefully, if you're looking after them and giving them what they need, they'll play better.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? You go, well, you want them to go, this is great.
Yeah, feel good.
We really need to go that extra mile on stage.
Yeah.
So they're for a great time.
And they would come back.
They're for a great gig. The customers then experience that. A lot of gigs, customers say to us, you could tell those guys were loving it on stage. And that whole experience. And then, what I've definitely found is off the back of that, almost every single band that ever plays at ours wants to rebook.
Yeah.
And loads of other bands, because a lot of bands play at festivals. I get loads of managers of other bands saying, so-and-so played at yours, he said it was great, and you really looked after them, and it works like that. So when places don't... Now, I don't know if that's because a lot of venues, they're part of a chain, and, someone's just paid to work in there, and they're not as bothered. It's different for me, because I own it. So it's our life, isn't it?
Yeah,
So I don't know, in some venues, if it's staff and they're not that bothered, then have they got as much vested interest? I don't know, but it's a shame.
Yeah. So the thing that I made a note of, and this was ages ago, knowing that we were going to be doing this, was the fact that you need to look this up, Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody sued God.
Yeah.
A few years ago. Have you heard about this?
I remember seeing a film about it a long time ago.
And they won.
Right.
It's not the fact that someone tried to sue God. They actually did and won.
Mm-hmm. So
it's got something to do with land ownership, from what I recall.
It's got its own Wikipedia page. Lawsuits against God. Is that...
I didn't know there was more than one.
There must be another.
So this was a woman in
somewhere
in America. Yeah,
of course it was.
Because somebody had managed to transfer the deeds of a piece of land. It was a certain place in America where you could do this, to God or to the earth. And then this woman, I think there was like a storm or something that like destroyed her house, and she lost everything. So she had this lawyer friend who they made this lawsuit. So it's like, well, if God can be confined to that piece of land, and we live there, then we can sue God for what happened to us.
Right.
And it went through this whole court procedure, and it got really complicated. But they actually got some damage. I don't know who from. I never worked out where did the damages come from. God just get his card out and go, sorry about that.
The church. Who represents God?
Yeah.
Not me.
So somebody told me about it, and then I looked it up. This was like probably over a year ago, and I briefly looked it up, and I remember, oh yeah, they did. So I don't know if you actually managed to find anything, but
I can't really read that script properly, so maybe I'll bring it here. Do you not know the person's name or where they were from or anything?
No, just put somebody sued God in one.
I'm looking.
Maybe all the various churches just chipped in.
It's definitely something like some sort of hippie town in America where it was possible to, and that even the council was hippie.
Right.
So anything's possible.
Yeah.
But it was. I didn't think that was true.
Is it? I'm sure there's a film about that, isn't there? With Billy
there's got to
Connolly.
be.
With Billy Connolly, I'm sure.
Billy Connolly?
Yeah, I'm sure. I could be wrong. It was 1997 last time I was wrong, so I'm probably not.
What an outrageous statement.
Is the film The Man Who Sued God?
Yes.
All right.
Is it Billy Connolly?
It is. There he is.
Oh, look
Wow.
at that.
Where's the...
Unbroken record.
Yeah. There he is.
Oh yeah.
It's,
Whether that's the same thing.
God,
that is the thing.
What does it say?
I live to be right again.
Yeah.
An ex-lawyer fisherman sees his fishing boat sunk by lightning.
Act of God.
Yes. What's the other one?
Tour de Force.
Force majeure.
Force majeure. Yeah.
But I don't know how you would. Where's the money come from? Who's paying the damages if you get if you win? I don't. That's incredible.
Okay.
I do have that. I need to see that film. That looks actually quite good.
It probably isn't.
I like Billy Connolly, so,
Well, so
I'll
do
probably
I,
watch it. Did you have a story? That was potential other things.
The story of the guy in his cup.
I've got a story, yes.
All right, okay.
But that was one of the things. You could either bring a news article or a story or both.
Right.
If you haven't, that's fine.
Right.
So I have a story that I'll have to read. It was so unbelievable. I had to write it down because I was going to submit it to another podcast who read out stories. Shagged, Married, Annoyed. Have you heard of it?
All right, yeah,
Chris and Rosie Ramsey. So that's part of what they do. I've sent it in a couple of times, but they haven't read it. Obviously, they get sent thousands of emails because that's one of the most popular podcasts in the country. Let me just find it. So this was a few years ago. So I wrote it down so I can just read what I've written. So because if I tried to do it from memory, I would forget.
If you send me that story, if you want it submitted, if you send it to me, because I'm friends with Chris Ramsey's best friend.
Oh, are you?
Who's a comedian who plays.
So should I not read it out then?
Okay. No, you can. But I'm saying if you did ever want it to go on, just send it to me and I'll send it on to him.
That's brilliant. Well, I have been listening to that podcast since episode 1, by the way. So I'm a day oneer. So I'll read it. After a cracking night out watching a live venue with my girlfriend, travelling back home on the last bus, never advisable, I know, but we missed the previous bus and we had no option. Crying emoji. It was surprisingly empty, with a group of about 4 girls in the middle, all laughing and joking, a guy on his own near the front, and me and my girlfriend near the back. The journey takes approximately about 25 minutes. After about 20 minutes, we noticed one of the girls was holding a pint and was in the process of finishing off her drink. A few minutes later, she bolted upright and, without warning, vomited into the pint glass. Somehow, managing to not spill a single drop, she got a huge round of applause from all of her friends for this incredible achievement. The cheers of applause soon turned to moans and groans when the smell of her newly served pint of stomach smoothie overtook the whole bus, and I can confirm it was horrific. She didn't really know what to do with her pint, despite some really sound drunken advice from her friends to down it in one. Thankfully, for the rest of the bus on board, she decided against that option, but was shouting about the smell and not knowing what to do with the vomit. And it made us actually feel like vomiting again. Thank God that didn't happen. It was at this point, a man from the front of the bus stood up and declared, "Here, let me deal with that, love. The next series of events will stay with me until the day I die, as some things you cannot erase from memory." Without hesitation, the girl said, "Go for it, mate." and he walked over to her and confidently took the pint out of her hand and stared at the pint momentarily. I was sure he was going to down the pint, and you could just imagine the Mexican vom that would ensue. But no, he marched over to a window near the front of the bus in some sort of heroic act to save us all. He hurriedly opened it whilst lifting the pint up to the gap and tilting it to the contents would go outside. Brilliant idea, we both thought. However, what he hadn't considered was that we were travelling at almost 60 miles an hour, and opening the window had created a high-speed airflow into the bus. Chunks of vile stomach churn started splattering everyone behind him, even reaching as far back as myself and my girlfriend. It gets worse. At this exact moment, one of the girls, equally intoxicated as friends, couldn't handle the situation and proceeded to vomit herself. She didn't have a pint glass this time, unfortunately. The only thing she could find to puke in was her handbag. This as one of the most horrendous experiences either of us had, and some of it went in my eye. That was bad. It almost made me hurl, and I'm really not squeamish, but at this point, this was an extreme situation. I can only thank the powers that be that it happened at the end of the journey, and we only had a few minutes before we could get off the bus. Needless to say, we have always made sure we get the penultimate bus back, never the last bus. There you go. Yeah, that was bad. That was. It was one of those ones where I had to write it down because I wouldn't remember it, but people wouldn't believe it actually happened. So my girlfriend is now my wife, so she can vouch for that. But yeah, that was bad. That was. Have you had have you had the last bus back?
I don't think I have.
For you.
I've never travelled very much by bus, to be honest.
I don't really understand buses.
You don't understand them? What do you mean?
Like, I get the concept of buses.
Okay.
But I never know. It blows my mind when folk know which bus goes where, because there's so many buses.
Oh, right, yeah.
So
you just have to know which bus you need to get for where you're going, I suppose. They do have timetables at the bus stop, you know.
I never them which bus. Like, I find the whole thing.
It is a bit of a puzzle.
Some of them, when you look at the grid reference thing,
I find the whole concept. Every time I see people at the bus stop, I think, fair play. Really.
So, well done to you. Fair play. Round of applause. You got the bus.
The last time I had to get in a bus was about a year ago. Other than, when I was a child, I don't think I'd ever got in a bus as an adult. And then about a year ago, I had to get in a bus. Fairly convoluted story, but my car was at home. Anyway, long story, had to get home. And I thought, well, I'll get in a bus. And then I went for some reason, I went uber middle class British. So I got in the bus, bit queue, got to the front, and I said to the bus driver, so how does this work? Is that what you mean? And I went, well, I live in this village, so is that somewhere you can take me? Was that something we can... How much would that be? Someone shouted wanker from the bus to me. I'm like, how much money would that be? Can you drop me near? I think he thought I was setting the pace. I'm like, honestly, I don't know. And then he said, you need to get this bus. I'm like, was this... I found the whole thing.
You never got on a bus ever again.
I found it all very complicated. Long story, he wouldn't take me to my house, which I thought was outrageous.
He wouldn't take me to my door.
Or anywhere even near, so I had to get a taxi, is the denouement of that story. So, yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
I think we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us, Will.
Hey, my absolute pleasure.
It's been fun. So we'll give you a shout when it's available, and we'll speak soon. All right, Take care. There we go, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Me and Tech were so excited to get back into the studio. It just felt good to do all that again and be in that environment, and long may it continue. Yep, so we're fully back in business. Everything is as it was. Really looking forward to giving you guys some more episodes and some great conversations with we actually are booking as we speak. If you want to get in touch with us here at the show, you can email us, podcast@behindthenoise.net. You can get in touch with us at social media. Just go to behindthenoise.net. You'll find all of our details on there, and in the show notes, whatever platform you're listening to, whichever app, all the details are in the show notes. Please, if you want to help us, what you could do is you could share the show, give it a rating, a review, whatever platform or app you're listening to, do all you can in there. And just if you could think of just one person who would get something out of this podcast or this particular episode, just share it, send them a link, and you'll be doing us a great favour. And we also recorded this show at Sunbeams, part of the Mawson Sunbeams Music Trust. They do great work with adults and children with special needs. They have a full recording studio there, which anybody can hire. A performance hall. It's a fantastic facility, and they do so much great work, and I'm honoured to work with them. And so just go to sunbeamsmusic.org to check out their work. So yes, thank you very much, and until next time, see ya!